All right, today we are talking about the secrets of building a sustainable real estate business. Whether if you're a solo agent, you're running a small team, you're running a mega team, what is that path to build a business that is super sustainable, that's predictable, and that is built for lasting and longevity, right? How does that all break down? And so what we want to start off with is just kind of showing our path. And we'll break down for you just kind of the progression of how we went from zero to where we're at today. We're on a $125 million real estate sales team that's profitable. It does reasonably well. And how did we get there? Because obviously it doesn't happen overnight. And along the way, we made lots of mistakes. And a lot of people, they will just tell you the good and they won't tell you the ugly and the bad, the pain points along the way, the struggles. But we will share those today, right?
Absolutely. One thing that we have always been committed to in any business, but especially in the real estate space, is to be truth tellers and not train or coach or share on hypothesis or theory, but what has actually happened, what actually works, and what we've actually done.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to when we first started, Rach. I got my license in December of 2016. We owned restaurants at the time. The writing was kind of on the wall that these restaurants were not going to sustain the changes that Washington State had made to the minimum wage laws. And I realized, hey, to keep our family in a good position, I need to go become a licensed real estate agent. I was passionate about real estate sales. I love real estate. It's kind of always been like my just passion, from growing up in real estate and development and building and everything else. Wanted to get back into that, but more on the sales side this time. And so I got licensed. And then I made the best sale of my real estate career.
Literally, he had to close me at least, 5 times.
Yeah, you didn't want to get into real estate.
No, I didn't.
Right? And why did you want to get into real estate?
In 2008, we got married and then promptly went bankrupt because of the Great Recession and the economy collapse. So we lost everything, posted a $7 million bankruptcy. And in 2016, that still felt fresh to me. I know it had been 8 years, but it still felt fresh. So the idea of getting back into an industry that had essentially imploded our entire lives was very daunting. And I was very hesitant about it and resistant to it, for sure.
That wasn't the whole thing, though, was it? Because we both kind of believed that there were some stigmas attached to real estate agents, right? And we're like, ugh, I don't want to be one of those people. Talk about that.
So I've never considered myself a salesperson. I am not somebody who I would ever before, 7 years ago say I'm great at sales. I thought salespeople were really cheesy. I thought they were slimy. I always would picture a used car salesman. I pictured women in really stuffy pantsuits with bad haircuts and too much makeup.
Like a Hillary Clinton pantsuit.
Yeah, a Hillary Clinton pantsuit and Mary Kay makeup, right? That's what I pictured as a real estate agent. And so for me, I was like, I don't want that stigma. I don't want to come across to my friends and family that way. So the conditions with which I agreed to your excellent sales pitch. Do you remember those conditions?
It was that we had to do it different.
Exactly.
Right. And we were committed to just getting into real estate and doing real estate in a way that we hadn't seen other people do it, and kind of removing these stigmas and these just kind of bad vibes that agents had put out to the public. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I get into real estate, kind of get going 2017. You get licensed, what was it, February?
Yeah. So you literally got licensed, I think, in 10 days, and we're licensed by December 1st, 2016. Yep. I spent the month of January finishing up the license, but also kind of helping set up the office, set up the systems, get paperwork kind of going in our real estate office that we got. And I was licensed by February 1st.
Yeah. So we started off around February together, both collaborating and working in partnership. And our goal was to never actually build a team. Right?
No, we were coming off of a decade working in the restaurant space with a lot of headaches, a lot of stress, a lot of people that we had frankly disappointed because we always prioritized building the business as opposed to holding on to capital in that industry, right?
Right. And I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, so we can stay on point here. But we had 425 employees. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to have that headache and responsibility again.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
That's kind of like the long and the short of it.
Yeah,
right?
we wanted it to be us. We wanted to control our own schedules. We knew that you and I could carry whatever we wanted to build or do on our backs, no problem, and not having to rely on anybody, not having to wait for anybody, not having to drag anybody along was kind of the mentality that we had in the beginning.
Yeah. And so we start off and we start calling people, start building a database. We added a CRM into our business. And it took like a month or so. Like we didn't really have anything going on in February, right?
No, I mean, I remember the first appointment I set was 5 days after I got licensed.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically like walked through the buying process super quickly. And then we went and saw 3 houses. And in 2017, the market was just kind of starting to rumble again from like the recession. Like it had started to appreciate again. Interest rates weren't super high. So it really was a great environment for a lot of first-time home buyers in our market, especially.
Yeah, prices were still reasonable and rates were low.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so we had a ton of opportunity to be able to talk to people through the process, be able to, we were kind of in this space where we were flying in this airplane, building it on the way, right? Building our business on the way.
And a lot of our family is from up north in Washington State here. So we didn't have a lot of sphere in this area, right? So we leaned really hard into online leads mm-hmm. and specifically pay-per-click. So mm-hmm. like when people Google search like houses for sale in our area, we would show up, mm-hmm. we'd call these people and convert them. And that's how we ultimately ended up kind of getting things moving. I believe May of 2017 was the first month we broke $100,000 in GCI. So it took us 5 months to get there, which is pretty awesome. It's looking crazy. Back, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that there's a lot of people that never break $100,000 in GCI in 1 month. So to do that within the first 4 months of me being licensed and 5 months of you being licensed was a huge accomplishment. Right.
And then by September, I believe we hired our first admin. And that's when Dale joined our team as like the first agent as well. Right?
Exactly. Yep. So we brought on an administrative assistant to do both admin stuff and TC at the end of September. Dale joined us the second week of October.
Yeah. And then we added Chuck, I think it was December. January, mm-hmm. right? And both these agents are still on our team today. Mm-hmm. So they became kind of like foundational pillars into the growth of our team. What did we learn about sustainability in that first year? Because I don't think that was really our mission. It was more like survival, wasn't it?
It was straight up survival. I mean, we were, again, coming off the back of a restaurant company that we owned. But starting from absolute nothing, right? We literally had our pay-per-click leads on our credit cards. Like it was not a good time. But what we learned was what we're capable of. We learned a lot about the skill sets that we had been building over the last 15 years in business prior. And that we had the chops and the grit to build something.
Right. And then 2018, that's when we kind of went into team mode, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was at the suggestion of a coach at the time who basically said, like, look what you've done. Like, look at the amount of business you've generated and the amount of conversions you've been able to do. And even the drip camp, like the tools that you've employed to build this business so quickly. By the beginning of 2018, he's like, you're being selfish by not bringing people into your ecosystem.
Yeah. Shout out to Dave McGattier. He's our coach at the time. 2017, we did, if I remember right, it was $680,000 in GCI.
685. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then 2018, we shot all the way up to $2.1 million. Mm-hmm. So we basically 3x'd mm-hmm. our revenue, which mm-hmm. is crazy. And we were profitable doing it as well, which is mm-hmm. even crazier. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if I would call that year the most sustainable year. We're trying to talk about sustainability, but it was definitely crazy, compounded, massive growth, right?
Yeah.
And it was an amazing, fun roller coaster ride. Yeah. We didn't have a lot of sustainability built into our personal lives at the time.
That's exactly
it was really just kind of like all in, both of us, and then with all these awesome team members as well, trying to get a lot of sales on the board and really pushing the envelope of things. So that's, and now our team is still doing a similar amount of volume, right? Like we're more like 3 million in GCI now. But we've kind of fallen into just this like, consistency year to year. It's not like we're like out there 3Xing our GCI like we did in that 1 year. So I think that we found some sustainability. And I think that we should unpack that for people a little bit and just kind of share with them some of the lessons that we learned along the way to create that, because it's wildly sustainable now, right?
Yeah, it is.
And when I talk about sustainability, what I mean is that there's some predictability to it, right? Like we don't have to go work 100 hours a week to make this work. we work probably in our real estate business 30 hours a week or so. It's one of our multiple businesses that we have. But we also have built in personal sustainability with it as well, right? We're not just like sprinting like we were at one time, knowing that we can't keep that pace up.
Yeah,
you know
exactly. I mean? And I have to kind of add to this that part of the sustainability that we built in, it sounds really easy to talk about how we built this business and how we employed all these systems and all these tools and softwares and all these things. But there was a lot of really uncomfortable days and a lot of really uncomfortable weeks that I, as a mom who still owned the kids side of this, it was really uncomfortable. And so I think one of the myths of building a sustainable business is that it's going to feel sustainable throughout the entire growth process.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It's really uncomfortable in the beginning.
It feels like a hurricane.
Oh, it was chaotic. And it honestly, and we can probably get to this, but it took a couple of years for us to learn how to thrive and not just survive. Because we were so used to surviving and thriving in chaos that when things started to settle down, things started to normalize, things started to become sustainable, we would kind of stir shit up because we were used to thriving in chaos. And so we start create chaos in order to find, where we thrived again. So it's taken unlearning some things in regards to the chaotic aspect of it to continue to have a sustainable business.
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned the chaos, right? And what I've learned after being in network with lots of other high performing entrepreneurs, we have this sick addiction to chaos. That's what actually gets us up, puts on our body armor and goes to war to win the day. Yeah. I don't know why, it's this nasty cycle, but part of it is almost kind of necessary if you want to get some big shit done. Mm-hmm. Right. And it takes stepping back and reflecting on yourself and your actions and your motivation to realize that, hey, maybe I have an obsession with chaos, right? It's almost an addiction.
100% it is. And that's what I mean is when we were building, we were bringing people in, we didn't really understand the framework of how to fit those people in. What we were going for was we'll just teach you what we know and just kind of try to do what we do, right? And I think that's probably why those two teammates and friends are still with us is because they got imparted a ton of, they just did everything we did and learned everything we did and learned right along with us, which is awesome. But to then figure out how to go from growth mode to sustainability and management and maintenance mode, those are two different modes, right? And people like us who are conditioned for chaos, people like us who are, we thrive in the chaotic environment, it takes a lot to not sabotage what you've built when you're trying to maintain that and continue to build something else, right? That's complementary.
Yeah. Let's break down for people just what are some of the missteps that we took along the way and the lessons that we learned that we can maybe share with people so they avoid that same chaos, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you right now that one of the biggest mistakes that I had to learn from multiple times, this isn't just a one-time thing, was hiring the wrong people. I loved to hire on potential. Mm-hmm. I loved to hire people who I thought wanted to turn their lives around and they wanted to be a better person and do better things. And so I brought a bunch of people in who were broken people who continued to bring their brokenness into our business.
You wanted to be their savior deep down.
Yes, I did. I had a complete savior complex.
Yeah, savior is not a leadership form that is sustainable, unfortunately.
Not at all. Not at all. But I think that a lot of people do, a lot of leaders have that, and there's good intention in it, right? I'm not sitting there intending to sabotage my business by bringing in this person who's broken or who doesn't have a track record, nor is it, well, I guess it is probably a little bit of ego, right? I feel like I could help them and therefore they'll help my business if they just do this and they just listen to me this way.
It's totally you see potential in somebody.
Yes.
They don't even see it in themselves. And you say, hey, I've got the skills to fix this broken person.
Correct.
And then make them a value add to my business. So There's some ego, but there's also some belief in this person as well. So It's kind of a double-edged sword. Yeah, I mean, over the years, you really intentionally worked on your hiring skill set to make it actually go from a weakness into a strength. And so I think that figuring out what are those things that you do to hire right becomes very important early on in the business. Mm-hmm. Slowing the pace way down was really, really important. Really understanding what we're looking for in each role, making sure we got clear job descriptions, crystal clear standard operating procedures. So this person knows what they're stepping into and we know what we're getting as well. And our hiring process now for salaried administrative staff is super slow. Do you want to just briefly touch on that?
Yeah. I mean, what we learned is people, especially in administrative positions, people in administrative positions want to have very clear expectations and very clear standards. Their worst fear is not meeting a standard that they didn't know was there, right? And so that's what we did, was we thought people coming in, well, they'll kind of think just like us, no matter what their personality type, they'll think kind of like us, and they'll want to build something, and they'll be okay creating processes. And the reality is that less than 10% of administrative type personalities, administrative type teammates want to build anything. They want to plug in and they want to do, right? They are doers, not builders. So the biggest thing that I had to learn with the hiring process was multiple different mediums of communication. So phone, in person, and then also getting that person into a panel where they're answering, so to speak, and answering questions and conversing with multiple teammates, as well as putting them through small exercises that will show their written word, show how responsive they are, show how much attention to detail they have. So I have 8 different steps in the hiring process for W-2 and administrative teammates now, where I'm able to look at them from all sorts of different mediums and vantage points that allows me to see, are they who they say they are, and will they be able to follow through the things that they're telling me they can do?
It's kind of designed to intentionally eliminate people on their own, right? It's like, hey, here's all these hoops you have to jump through. And if you don't jump through that hoop, you simply don't move on to the next step. And so oftentimes these administrative positions will have hundreds of applicants for them, right? Because they have a salary. And so we've designed kind of this process and this workflow to take 150 applicants, whittle it down to 20 that are actually going through all the hoops, and then narrow that down to 2 or 3 to sit into a panel. The panel, I think, has been a very effective tool for us. It's usually made up of 3 or 4 people on our team, leaders within our organization, people who have been with us for a long period of time, or that might be in that department the person's going to work in. And we collectively do just kind of like a last interview to get to know this person. I think it's pretty intimidating for the people that come into it, but I think we do learn a lot about each other through this medium of interviewing.
100%. And I think that it's become a critical piece of the puzzle. Because one thing that we did, and on our team, we have a leadership team. So there's 5 or 6 of us that are leaders in the team. We meet every other week. We also meet quarterly offsite to discuss the business in general. So if you don't have that and you're working to build, who else do you have in your ecosystem? Do you have a coach? Do you have a mentor? Do you have somebody in your life who you trust, maybe a colleague who you can bring into the process? Because the point of the panel is for other people to have eyes and ask questions from a different viewpoint of that person. And then the standard that we put in place we've maintained it 100% is that if it's not a unanimous yes between all panel members, then it's a no. So even if it's a split decision, it's a no. And everybody has agreed from the beginning that that's the way. And that has been good to us ever since.
It's led to some fights though within the leadership team, especially when you're the person that's like, sometimes you'll have 10 or 15 hours into a person and you'll believe this is the right person that we should hire. And then something comes up in the panel that you didn't see and we're like, nope, that's not the person. You're like, damn it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm the first one to say, like, I'm going to get spirited if I feel like I'm right. Like I'm going to push back a little bit, but that's the beauty of the relationship that we have with our leaders is like, we can push back a little bit and then also say, all right, girlfriend, like, let's take a step back from this because remember our rule. It's a no.
Yeah. So hiring a lot of people is definitely problematic, but on the flip side of that, I do think that building a sustainable real estate business really comes down to hiring the right people. You know what I mean? Like investing in leverage and investing it before you like desperately need it. When we're talking about hires on our team, we're thinking like 6 to 12 months out, right? Like right now we're shooting this in November of 2024 and we're kind of projecting, thinking through like, what's the end of 2025 going to look like? And what might those needs be on the team for staff, right? So you got to stay like way out ahead of what you need. And so often I see agents wait until they're like in this massive hole where they're just drowning with work, most of it administrative work, not sales work. And then they rush to get somebody hired. And it's like a 911 type hire. And inevitably it ends up becoming a shitty hire. They have to repeat the process because they just rushed it.
Yeah. I mean,
this is like so commonplace.
It's super common. And I think that the reason that people do that is because they're scared, right? There's fear bringing somebody in, fear of the cost, fear of not having enough for that person to do, fear of them being the wrong person and not being able to train them, or all these different fears. And the way that we see that is bringing somebody into our ecosystem. Number one, we're going to take it seriously. So I'm going to do it slowly, which I do, right? It takes 4 to 6 weeks to go through the hiring process for our team, or for any of our businesses. And then once you bring them on, if you're not technically like busy enough, or if you're hiring for the future, guess what that does? It lights a fire under your ass, and it allows you to have even more motivation and even more inspiration to go out and continue to generate revenue for the business. Right. So it's not a bad thing, right? In my opinion, but we are able to see that and harness that. And I think a lot of people are afraid to make that move for that reason.
I would say 9 out of 10 times I'm talking to agents and they're not sure if they should hire an assistant, they already should have had an assistant.
Exactly.
Right? Like they're waiting way too long. So you got to really project out where your business is going to be in 6 to 12 months and be hiring way in advance of it, not making a desperate hire.
And one quick tip on, hiring an administrative teammate. When you're bringing them in, they're not going to be proven yet. They're not going to have proven all of the experience that they have. They're not going to be able to show the skill sets they have yet. Like, you're bringing them in on kind of faith and whatever you were able to, get out of them and see in the hiring process. So one thing that we started doing a couple of years ago was bringing somebody on at a lower base rate and then putting benchmarks in place over the 30, 60, 90, 6 months and 12 months of their employment. So every time they are able to take more of those tasks and skills off of your plate because their competency is growing and their capacity is growing, you give them a little bump. So you have a mutual investment in each other that I'm going to continue to teach you. You're going to continue to pull things off of my plate so that by 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, I want to pay you more if you're able to competently do these things. So that's worked out really, really well. And we actually haven't had an administrative teammate come on the team, which we've hired 3 or 4 in the last year, 18 months. We haven't had an administrative teammate not hit each of those goals because low key, they're financially motivated to hit that bigger
it's salary. A win-win. Like, the business is giving people a chance to demonstrate competency, right? And once they've demonstrated competency, now they're getting a chance to earn more money. So it's kind of a win-win by designing it that way.
100%.
So hiring the wrong people was definitely a lesson learned.
Yep.
But also hiring the right leverage early enough is the other side of that coin that's really important.
Super important.
Another, I think, really important lesson learned is don't spend your way to the top, right? Like, I think sometimes we may be led with like leads, like we wanted to be like the number one team in Sonoma County so bad, which we did achieve very early on. But it took spending a lot of money to get there. I mean, there was months where we would scratch $30,000, $40,000 a month checks just for lead flow, right? And so I think leading too much with leads is problematic, especially if you're building a team and you've got some people that aren't necessarily proven lead converters, because not everyone's going to convert like you or I might, or like the team leader would and the rainmaker. So what is a better way to grow than just to throw money at leads like we did?
Yeah. I mean, I think what we did do, and I think that was because of the survival mode that we happened to be in, but what we didn't do was have really good systems in place to capitalize on our either past sphere or past clients in other industries or our current sphere. We didn't focus on building our sphere at that time, right? We were just focused on building client base. And, there's for sure a thread of validity to that, because when you first enter real estate or first enter any sort of sales space, like the people that you know and like and love aren't necessarily going to give you a chance. Like, you haven't proven yourself yet.
Taking $1 million chance in you, I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think a lot of people get into real estate thinking, I have a huge sphere and everybody's going to buy with me. I mean, everybody I know is going to like call me when they want to sell or buy. And quite the opposite is true. Like, they're kind of holding their breath for a second. Number one, to make sure that you're going to actually get into the industry and actually make it. And number two, they're going to wait and see how competent you are. And then once you build competency and then once you have like a proven track record, now all our sphere wants to come to us because we've proven that this is what we do and we're the best at it.
Right. Yeah. I think key, like foundational to a sustainable business is being past client and sphere of influence based, right?
100%.
PCSOI, as we call it in our world. So coming up with systems and processes on how to really be high touch with those people is very important. Some of our favorite things to do are client events. We like to do those 2, 3, 4 times a year, not necessarily just huge events where there's like 500 people there, but sometimes smaller, more intimate events like the one we're doing with the hockey game later this month. Just VIPs, only like 100 people, very much small, but very conversational, very relationship based type events.
Exactly.
We do home anniversary and home birthday stuff as well. We do quarterly mailings where we're mailing stuff to them that's like high value, and making sure we're staying in touch that way. And then we're always inviting them to client events. Like, we're not really reaching out to our sphere and saying like, hey, who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling? That feels super shitty to me and gross. No offense, Tom Ferry. But it feels a lot better to me when I call all my friends and see, I'm like, hey, we got this awesome party going on. Yeah. I'd love for you to come out and drink beer with me and just hang out. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think that, we've committed to never calling and asking for referrals, because that's not a value-based relationship, right? I'm not going to call my mom or my grandma and ask who she knows, likes and trusts, and can she send them my way to buy and sell. It's like, I'm going to continue to invest value into a relationship, and then law of reciprocity is going to take over, right? Like that's what this is about. I genuinely love most of the clients that I've ever worked with. It's like you get to work with this person for a couple of months. You're in all of their business. Like, you get to know all of their family and their life and what they do and what they love and a home that they are making their own. And then you're just supposed to be like, okay, I'll see you in 5 years if you want to upgrade. It's like, no, like, I want to see you more. They become friends. And it's really, really fun to be able to throw events, do drop-bys, check in on them on social media, and maintain a relationship with that person as like acquaintances throughout the life.
Right. So I think to summarize this point is, don't spend money on online leads until you've got really, really solid PCSOI operations within your business, because that's going to be the foundation with which all of your business grows, right? And it grows sustainably. So lock that down, do the client events, do the quarterly touches, have a social media plan for your past clients in Sphere, have a home anniversary, a birthday process in place as well, and really lock that down. I think that's super, super important. Mm-hmm. So what about just like general like processes, right? Like, I mean, how do processes and systems, SOPs as we call them in our world, how does that bring sustainability to a real estate business? Yeah,
I think that a lot of real estate agents bring people into their world, into their team. They join forces, but they haven't really outlined and written down what a standard operating procedure would be for each of the different things that they do. And so if you think about a real estate agent and everything that we do, we have buyer processes, we have seller processes, we have database management processes. How do you organize the people in the database and keep them in different stages and have them tagged appropriately based on their timeline or their wants or their needs? In the business itself, how often are you actually looking at your financials? Are you actually tracking the lead spend you actually do make or the client spend you have for client events versus the income that you're making off of those efforts? So not having an organization to what and how you're doing all of these things does not allow you to create a sustainable business. Because if you're bringing people in, there needs to be a uniformity with all those processes. You need to be able to say, hey, hey, Mike, you're coming into our business. This is how we perform a buyer consultation. And this is the process to saving the paperwork and letting the client know and the cadence of communication we expect. Like, if you do not have those in place, then you are not going to build a sustainable business. It's incredibly important to do so.
Yeah, I really think the SOPs are the foundation of consistency and predictability, both for the client experience and for the people that work within your team and your organization. If they know what to expect, they have a much better idea of what to hit and what to aim for. It's our job as leaders to define the target, right?
Exactly.
If we haven't defined the target, we have not done our job. So I believe essential to sustainability is that you have an SOP for every position within your organization, whether if it's transaction coordination, if it's an assistant, if it's a buyer agent, if it's an ISA, if it's a showing partner, you need an SOP for each one of these. And these are living, breathing documents, meaning they're changed and updated regularly by the person that you've hired in that role as things evolve and improve. If you ever find a breakdown, go back to the SOP, figure out what happened, and modify that SOP so you don't repeat it, right?
Yeah. And low key as a leader, when breakdowns happen, because they will, and somebody doesn't follow the process and somebody veers outside of what you were expecting them to do or what they were supposed to do, it is your fault if it is not in the SOP. Right. So own that and then celebrate the fact that they've found a stress fracture in the process and then build it together and patch it up together. That's what creates, a lot of camaraderie in a business is when you're celebrating somebody, making a mistake because they didn't know better and then bringing them into the fold in regards to how to improve it next time.
Sure. Absolutely. And then also important for sustainability is financial controls, right? Yep. Like this is where you need to take off that realtor hat, put on the business owner CEO hat, and you develop financial processes, SOPs on the financial side of your business as well. If you don't know where your money is coming from and where it is going, you have zero sustainability or control of your business.
100%.
So what are some of the things that we've put into place that people can maybe adopt and utilize to get financial control in their business?
Sure. Well, number one, if you do not already have a financial tracking tool in place, get one right now.
What do you mean when you say that?
like a QuickBooks Online.
Yeah,
I think we
or
pay
Zero, either one.
or Zero. Yep. We pay, I think, $83 a month for each of our accounts on QuickBooks, and being able to track, like connect every single account, every credit card, everything to it. And then starting to create like general ledgers, right? Like accounts, essentially, like where that money is spent on, the different areas: advertising, team, client events, travel, education, coaching, like all these different things that you're going to spend money on. Be tracking where all that money is going, and then start tracking the income. So if you're getting a commission check that's coming in, was it a buyer or a seller commission? And then are you paying yourself a split on that commission from the team, right? So pay yourself the personal commission on that. So be tracking all those things. So we use QuickBooks. We look at it twice a week, at least once a week, but sometimes twice a week. So we know by the week where we're at profitability wise, where our spending is at. We print an expenses by vendor summary every single week, so we know exactly what vendors are being paid. And we're able to track week to week where our business is, so we can make accurate projections for investments in teammates, tech, all the signage, whatever we need. And then we could also rein things in if necessary.
Yeah, we coach people to review their financials monthly at a minimum. Weekly is preferred. We do ours twice a week just because we like to have complete control and know where things are going. But if you don't know the difference between a balance sheet and a P&L, you need to do some education. Go take some online courses. Yep. This is stuff that not everyone knows and understands, and that's okay, but it's on you to learn and master this. And it's essentially you have that skill as a business owner and operator, okay? So there's lots of courses online you can take, but you need to know the differences. You know how to read these financial statements. What do they mean? How do they impact your business? How do they work together? How do they work against you? All those types of things. Mm-hmm. So super important to sustainability, and also just having some cash reserves too.
Well, that's it. I think, like managing your monthly expenses and weekly expenses is absolutely key to having a sustainable business. You have to be able at any point to look at your balance sheet and say, do I have enough saved here to, if I didn't sell another house for 3 months, do I have enough to run my business, right? And I think we've pushed ours up into like the 6 month plus range for our business. But like you need to make sure that you are managing your expenses, because I think so many real estate agents get into the business and they see these huge checks come in and they are like, sweet, I'm going shopping. Sweet, I deserve this. Oh, I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to invest it in this over here. And they don't think about the capital that they should actually be keeping on hand to make sure their business runs. And so what ends up happening over time of doing this is they end up living almost paycheck to paycheck and experiencing a roller coaster of finances because they're not planning for the next one. You and I obviously learned the hard way, but we learned that by keeping enough capital in hand and waking up each day like we're at zero, it changes the way you show up and it changes the sustainability of your business.
Right. Not being at zero, but having the mindset of being at zero.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. So you need to have some cash reserves, both in your business and personally. On sustainability too, I mean, you kind of talked about it, like agents have these months where they make lots of money, and then I call this the roller coaster income syndrome for real estate agents. Then the next month they don't make money. Like let's say they made $50,000 this month. They're super excited. They go spend like $45,000 of this $50,000. They buy the new car. Maybe they buy an investment property. They buy new clothes. Like they're just loving it. They go to the Caribbean. They come back and they're like, shit, I'm out of money. You can't afford to be that guy. But this roller coaster income syndrome really comes from an inconsistency in your habits.
Correct.
Like it's less of a spending issue more often than not. Like that person just described obviously has spending issues as well, but they also have issues with their schedule, right?
Yeah.
What are the daily actions they're taking every single day? Because sustainability comes from doing that boring basic shit day in and day out.
Well, that's the very unsexy side of any business in entrepreneurship, but especially in real estate, is that like real estate agents are constantly chasing the shiny new tool, or what lead source is converting best, or what CRM do I need to move to make sure that I can get all the action plans and it will just automatically magically convert all these people that I have. And the reality is that this business is boringly simple. It's not easy, but it's simple, and people get lost in the simple. Like they can't, I don't want to say dumb it down, but it's like they cannot focus enough to do the basic things consistently because they get bored. So the most successful people are the ones who have the discipline to do the boring shit day in and day out, year after year.
Yeah. Like when we talk about sustainable habits, I'm talking about like a daily role play, right? Even if you've been an agent for 20 years, keeping those skills really sharp and working your database, calling people, messaging them for at least an hour a day. If you're newer, it should be like 2 or 3 hours a day as you're building up your pipeline in your business, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we covered a lot of the business lessons we learned, as well as ways to do it better and things that we've just kind of adopted over time. But how about on the personal side, right? Like, obviously, we're people at the end of the day. We're not robots. So this is all about sustainability. How do we infuse sustainability and transfer that from our business to ourselves, right? Like, what do we do? We've put into place some very specific things over the last 10 years that allow us to run this marathon, but we run this marathon in short sprints.
Yeah, I think that it's the real estate space, especially over the last 10 years, has moved in the direction of like personal growth. So, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves with our fitness, making sure that we're taking ourselves with quiet time, thought time is incredibly important. But the most sustainable thing that we have done, or the thing that we put in place that has created the most sustainability, is, of course, our 90-day rule. Right? Being able to push for 12 weeks, knowing that at the end of that 12 weeks, we started with a long weekend away, right? Where we went away, got out of town, whether it's a staycation or we flew somewhere, we went and got out of our normal routine. Just enough time to relax, okay, fly back home and get back to the grind. Having something to look forward to every quarter changes the way you show up day to day. It allows you to push. It allows you to really invest in every single day, getting the most out of it. Where, so many real estate agents, they will go for so long and then they burn out, crash, burn. They're done with the industry. Like, they don't want to show up and they don't want to talk to people anymore. And that's a big mistake, right? And so then they're reactive in how they take time off, as opposed to our approach of being very proactive to making sure that we're not crashing and burning.
Right. We've always got that light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Totally.
There's something that we're chasing, like, hey, we're going on vacation in 4 more weeks or 5 more weeks. And knowing that is coming allows us to go so much harder when we're here. Definitely love the 90-day rule. I think that's one of the most important things. Anything else on the personal side for sustainability?
I think what we've found is living a really healthy lifestyle is the best way to maintain your energy throughout having this career. We've lived both lives. We've lived the restaurant owner life and the real estate agent life of happy hours and drinking and eating shit food. And that's really fun, right? That's actually way more fun day to day, but you feel like shit and you don't look very good.
Yeah. Fun is hitting your goals.
Yeah, exactly.
That's more fun to be.
Well, now it is, of course. Like, we found fun to be in going to bed at 8:30 at night and getting up at 3:30 a.m. and going to the gym and eating the same chicken and rice for every single meal because we feel good. It makes our energy levels really consistent. And we are clear-headed. We are, we show up better. We take care of ourselves. Therefore, we can invest in our people and continue to show up for our people every day too.
I call this like living in an awakened state. You know what I mean? Like, we're super aware and we are awake to what is going on. We're not just passively going through life.
Yep.
Right? Going from one easy thing to the next. Okay. Anything that we left off the table that we should talk about?
I think that the biggest, not the biggest, but another really big portion of this in creating a sustainable business is when you do find the right people, when you bring people into your world that are in alignment in business, they're in alignment in lifestyle, they're in alignment with the intensity with which we're charging ahead in this industry or in your business, they want to contribute to it being sustainable. Invest in those people. Keep the proximity with those people, maintain friendships outside of work, right? Care about their family, be sympathetic and empathetic to them in tough times. I think that's one thing that we did really, really well with a lot of the people that have been in our business for 5 years, 7 years, or more than 7 years, is that we care about them personally. We care about their family. And we've seen them through some hard stuff and given them grace and space to grieve. But we've also kept them accountable and challenged their thinking. So when you find those people, invest in them, keep that proximity with them, continue to invest in them. And, you can build good things together with people around you.
The people are the growth driver, right?
100%.
Awesome. So if you want to interact with us, you can go to our website. It's meetthenovaks.com. That's Novak. And you can get in touch with us that way. You can also follow us on Instagram. I'm at The Real Mike Novak, and you are at Rachel Novak. Right?
Correct. I got my name at Rachel Novak.
You were an early adopter.
Sure was.